Why do people call him the father of dogs? Did his wife give birth to dogs instead of human beings? A concerned woman asked her neighbor. And her neighbor laughed like a mad person. Once upon a time in a village called Oza, there lived a man called Dada. Dada was generally known as the father of dogs. Dada was a very tall and handsome man. He was a lovely man that many people wanted to associate with. Everyone in the village knew him as the father of dogs. Although Dada was married with children, but he cared more about his dogs than his children. His wife often tells people that her husband loved the dogs more than he loved her, and that he would choose dogs over his children. People believed her. They knew that she was telling the truth. The man Dada had about 20 dogs in his home, and he took care of them as if he was taking care of human being. What baffled the whole villagers was that Dada could choose his dogs over anyone. Dada's dogs were first in his life. They weren't just pets. They were more like companions. At first, his wife found it strange that her husband was sleeping in the same bed and eating on the same plates with his dogs. He played with them as if he was playing with human beings. He would always carry them on his lap and cuddle them like little babies. He talked to them and chatted with them always. They all understand his language. And when he didn't come back to his house early, all his dogs would be in front of his door waiting for his return. His wife nagged, and when she noticed that there's no way she could stop it, she moved her things into another room. People advised her to leave her marriage, but she refused. She loved her husband, and her husband was a good man. The only problem he had was his love for the dogs and the way he associated with his dogs. Many people had dogs in the village as pets, not as humans. So she made it compulsory that if her husband wanted to spend time with her, he would take his bath before entering her room. Dada agreed to do as she wanted so far she didn't come between him and his dogs. Another one that surprised her more during her early years in marriage was the way her husband took care of any of his dogs that gave birth. He treated them like the way mothers took care of their daughter that gave birth to a baby. He made sure that the dogs were fed 3 meals in a day, not just ordinary feeding. He fed them with bush meats and mangala fishes. The people of Oza village were known as those that ate dog meat, but that's not Dada. Dada didn't just stop at not eating dog meat. He hated anyone that kills or eats dog meat. Many households had dogs, but none of them treated their dogs like Dada did. All the dogs in the village knew Dada and understood him. Many times dogs from different homes would come to his house to play, and he would feed them the way he fed his own dogs. Play with them, run around in circles with them. Then you will notice how happy the dogs were by the way they wagged their tails continuously. One faithful day, Dada came back from the farm and met one of his dogs sick. He dropped his machete and began to look for medicine. There was no veterinary clinic in the village. This was a rural village that didn't even have electricity. The following day, Dada woke up and saw his dog dead. It was his first time losing his dog to the cruel hand of death. He screamed and carried the dog up. He tried to check if the dog was breathing, and when it became clear that the dog was dead, Dada fell on the ground and wept. He cried and cried, flogged himself on the floor. People were surprised. They all stared at him dumbfounded. That was just a dog, an ordinary animal. One of his neighbors whispered to another. But we all know how much he loves his dogs, another said. Even as that, is that why he is crying as if someone is dead? He should throw the dog away, another said again in sighs. But Dada didn't just throw the dog away like they said. After wailing for hours, Dada went to a reverend father in their parish and complained that one of his dogs was dead. The man of God, knowing fully well about how Dada loved all his dogs, sympathized with him and gave him some consolation words. "I want you to come and bury my dog," Dada said to the reverend father. At first, the reverend father thought that he didn't hear him well. Perhaps he was joking. He asked him again, and Dada repeated the same thing. "I want you to come and bury my dog," Dada said with all seriousness. "I cannot come to your house to bury a dog. Dogs are animal and not human," the reverend father said. But Dada flared up. "The dog is like my child. I have been paying for everything in this church, and now? Mr. Dada, I can't bury a dog. Can you listen to yourself? You want me to come and bury a dog. Why can't you come and bury my dog? What's the big deal?" The big deal is that dog is an animal, and I have never heard it in any history that Reverend Father buried a dog. But this dog is dear to me. No matter how dear the dog is to you, I can't bury it. Not me, not any other Reverend Father. Dada hesitated, looked at the Reverend Father and nodded his head. At home, he placed a small coffin he had bought for the dog. He asked one of his sons to dig a grave. He brought out a wooden table, lit about 3 candles and placed them on the table. The dog had already been put inside the coffin. Dada then put on long flowing white clothes that looked like Sultan. By doing so, he had turned himself into a Reverend Father. His wife and children stared in perplexed. Some villagers said that he was mad. Some even told his wife to run away. Many cringed at the sight of everything. The news traveled far and beyond the village, and many people came to see it. They all wanted to have first-hand information. Many spectators gathered to witness it. They all watched as Dada prayed fervently for his dead dog. The way tears were streaming down his eyes while he was praying. Someone that lost a child didn't cry like he did on that day. His wife knew how much her husband loved dogs, but she didn't know that it had gotten to that extent. The extent of burying a dog with a coffin. For days after the burial of the dog, Dada didn't eat food. He stayed indoors mourning the dog like a man mourning his dead wife. He stopped going to the farm. People that knew him very well came and sympathized with him over his loss. One evening, Dada was eating food when his wife ran inside the house screaming, "Mad dog! The dog is mad! Run! Everybody run!" Dada sprang up immediately, came out and asked, "Which dog?" The wife, after calming down, explained to him that one of their neighbor's dogs had run mad. The dog was moving around the village, chasing people around. His wife told him that there were people that came to buy the dog, but they could get hold of the dog. Dada nodded his head and left his wife. "Where are you going?" "Come and finish your food," his wife said. But Dada didn't say anything again. He walked briskly out of the compound and began to look for the particular neighbor that had the dog. When he got to his neighbor's house, people were screaming and shouting. The dog didn't bite anyone, but they were afraid that it would do it. The dog's eyes were shining red as if it was looking for what to eat or who to bite. But to everyone's surprise, Dada moved slowly towards the dog, calling its name. "Lucky, Lucky, Lucky, calm down." As he was calling its name, the mad dog began to wag its tail. Then he took the dog home and started caring for it like he was doing to his other dogs. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years. Yet Dada continued to live the same life. A life where dogs were his #1 family. A life where he could buy dog food without remembering his family. Just a life where all his dogs mattered more than anything. He buried all his dogs in the same way he did to the first one. He mourned them and cried bitterly. No one ever cared to know why he did all he did. They didn't care to know if there's any story behind his actions. They all tagged him a madman. Some people ran away when they saw him. His name became a name that mothers used to put fear in their crying children. If a child was crying and you said, "See the father of dogs," that child would keep quiet instantly and cowered at the back of the mother. For children, they believed that Dada bite like dogs. Some even called him dogs. One day a man came to the village and heard about him. They told him how far he could go to protect dogs. Not only his dogs, but all the dogs in the village. They told him how he mellowed a mad dog and took it away. And the worst was the fact that he never sold any of his dogs. He would always train them, feed them with meat, fishes, and good food until the dogs died. Then he would bury them as if he was burying a human being. After listening to the stories, the man told them that Dada was not mad, that it might be happening because of something. They all argued that he was doing it because he was insane. But the man decided to find out more about his relationship with the dogs. The next day, Dada was under the kola nuts tree in his compound when the man came. He presented a kola nut and a bottle of snuff. They prayed and blessed the kola nuts. After eating the kola, the man took snuff into his left palm, and with the back of his right index finger, he began to push them into his nostrils. Dada also took his own. "I heard that you lost a dog," the man asked. Dada waved his head this side and that side and gave a silent nod. The man calmed him down and told him to take things easy. "I know how painful it is to lose things close to our heart, things that we cherish so much. I heard how much you love all your dogs. So I know how painful it is to lose one of them," the man said. He didn't want to present his questions to him directly. So he started running around the bush. My brother, thank God you understand. You are the only one who understands me. Our people said that I am mad, but I am not mad. Some even ran away when they saw me, but that won't stop me from caring for my dogs. My savior. Savior, the man thought inwardly. How could he refer to a dog as a savior? Or wasn't that what he said? The man swallowed hard and threw another word. I know you are not mad. You do not look like mad people. You just love dogs and that's all. No, I didn't just love dogs. Dogs loves me. I love them because they loved me first. They showed me love. If not because of dogs, I won't be here talking to you. Dada said and threw his head backwards. The man was surprised with everything Dada had said. All his words were confusing. He was alive because of dogs? How could that be true? What do you mean? The man asked, not even expecting an answer, but Dada gave him an answer. I will tell you because you are the first person who has asked me this. Even the woman I kept in my house has never bothered to ask me. I am not a man of many words. I have never told anyone this, but I will tell you. He choked as he was talking. He coughed, cleaned the tears in his eyes and began. During the Biafra War, we thought that the war had ended, or should I say that people told us that the war had ended. We didn't do any investigation. All we wanted was to go home after spending 3 years in the wilderness. We were also hungry. On reaching home, we found out that the message we got was a fake message. We were caught by our opponents, people from the hillside. They lined us up and asked us to make our last prayers. We prayed and they began to shoot. But do you know what happened when they reached my turn? Dada asked. No, the man said and shook his head. The moment they fired the bullet, a dog came out from nowhere and took the bullet for me. I watched as the dog collapsed on the ground and died. Jesus! Is this real? The man screamed. You haven't said this to me, Dada's wife said, coming closer to them. They were so engulfed in the discussion that they didn't notice her presence. Dada ignored his wife's question to finish his stories. So when the dog died, they wanted to fire another bullet. But behold, all their bullet had finished. Then I took a hill and went back to where I came from. Dogs are indeed your savior. You are supposed to worship them, the man said and sprang up. He clapped his hands twice and sent them across their waist. Are you people not worshiping Jesus because he died on the cross for you? The dog is what died for you. Don't go that side. I love Jesus. He is also my savior. Dada interrupted the man. My husband, this your story is amazing, and you have never cared to share it with me. Now, I can understand why you love dogs and they love you. Dada's wife said again, have you ever asked me? Instead, you joined people to say that your husband is mad. Without a dog, I wouldn't be here today. This is why I love dogs and why I would never allow anyone to harm any dog in my front. Dogs are not just my pets, they are part of my household. The reason I am alive. The next day, the news of what made Dada love his dogs like human beings spread everywhere like a wildfire. It was then that people understood that Dada wasn't mad. He was taking care of the dogs that saved his life. It was really a beautiful tale that every mother told their children. How Dada was named the father of dogs. From that day, his wife joined him to take care of the dogs and also made sure that she cleaned and swept the room regularly. Hello, champions. I hope you enjoyed our stories. Please hit the like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks.